Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We're looking at a crazy modern phenomenon right now, like a literal suspenseful mystery that's unfolding all around us. Why on earth has deep, specialized knowledge, spending decades of your life studying one single subject, why has that suddenly become a reason to be hated? It's a massive shift in how we interact with information. We used to absolutely revere experts, right? And now we just constantly mock them. So we're going to figure out exactly why this profound shift is happening, and honestly, why it's so incredibly dangerous for our society.
I mean, just immerse yourself in the reality of the modern internet for a second. You're scrolling, right? 1 minute you see, eggs are healthy. The very next scroll, eggs cause heart disease. Then it's, masks work perfectly, followed literally a second later by, masks are completely useless. It's chaotic. It's totally overwhelming. It creates this wild environment where the truth feels like a constantly moving target. We're just endlessly bombarded with these absolute statements that completely contradict each other, and it leaves us exhausted, just deeply, totally confused.
To really grasp how absurd this environment has gotten, just imagine you're on a passenger plane. The engine catches fire. Panic, right? The pilot gets on the radio and goes, "Hey folks, don't worry, I've studied flight for 20 years, I know exactly how to land this." But then, suddenly, a passenger stands up and screams, "Don't listen to him, I watched a 10-minute YouTube video on gliders, I should fly this plane." And then, the rest of the cabin actually starts cheering for the passenger. Look, in literally any other century, that's a dark comedy sketch. But today, that is our actual reality.
So what do we actually call this mess? Well, we're living through what's known as the Great Epistemic Collapse. It's this bizarre modern phenomenon where having actual knowledge and real expertise has become a valid reason to be hated and dismissed. But here is the most suspenseful part of all this. This isn't happening because the experts suddenly got dumber. No. This is happening because of a massive glitch occurring deep inside our own brains.
And that specific glitch, it's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's basically a flaw in human software, where ironically, the less you know about a subject, the more confident you are that you've totally mastered it. You read one single article and boom, you zoom straight to the peak of what psychologists call Mount Ignorant. Now what's really interesting about this slide is how social media has taken this psychological effect and turned Mount Ignorant into a towering global skyscraper. You spend just 5 minutes reading a thread on a super complex topic, and your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine. It gives you this incredibly powerful, intoxicating illusion of mastery.
But why exactly does social media do this to us? Well, it boils down to a concept called consonance. This is the secret mechanism built right into the algorithms that control our feeds. See, these platforms, they aren't trying to teach us anything. They really aren't designed to show us the objective truth. Their primary goal is simply to feed us information that makes us feel comfortable, secure, and above all else, right. They just want to keep us scrolling. And the best way to do that? Wrap us up in a nice warm blanket of consonance. And as you might guess, this inevitably leads us straight to motivated reasoning. Because our algorithms are constantly patting us on the back and validating us, our psychological drive completely shifts. We don't look for facts to actually learn something new anymore, or, to challenge our perspectives. Nope. Instead, we look for facts purely to win an argument. We are actively, aggressively searching for consonance just to protect our own egos. When our beliefs go unchallenged, we feel smart, and our brains will do literally everything in their power to defend that feeling. Let's actually break down exactly how this plays out in a 4-step pipeline. Step 1. You read a quick 5-minute thread online. Step 2. Your brain releases dopamine, giving you that false illusion of mastery we just talked about. But Step 3 is where the glitch gets dangerous. When an actual expert confronts you with the nuanced, complicated truth, it makes you feel small. And your brain? It doesn't process this as a polite intellectual debate. It treats it as a literal, physical threat, which naturally leads to Step 4. To neutralize that threat to your fragile ego, you simply dehumanize the expert.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how staggering this shift in human behavior really is, especially when you look at our timeline. Think about it. Back in 1877, if a famine happened, society trusted the wise men. Why? Well, because a dead crop was very clearly a drought. Simple cause and effect. Jump to basically any other century, and the idea of overthrowing an experienced airplane pilot for some random passenger is, like we said, pure comedy. But welcome to 2026. Society openly mocks experts. Why? Because our lives have transitioned into a hyper-complex era, an era of what we call black boxes.
Let's define these black boxes for a second.
We're talking about things like global supply chains, massive AI neural networks, and 2.9 degrees Celsius climate anomalies. These are systems so incredibly vast and intricate that no single person can easily observe or understand them. They're completely opaque. And here's the thing. When the world becomes way too complex to understand through just simple observation, the collective human brain effectively enters a state of mass trauma.
So to cope with this mass trauma, our society invents a coping mechanism. We basically pit the complex reality against the simple enemy. Instead of facing the incredibly dense, difficult realities of, say, shifting climate patterns or intricate global economic shifts, we create a scapegoat. The narrative becomes, the climate isn't actually changing, it's just a hoax to tax you. The economy isn't undergoing a massive systemic restructuring, it's just them stealing your money. Psychologically speaking, it is so much easier to fight a simple villain than it is to try and understand a complex system.
But ignoring these complex systems, that has severe real-world consequences. Take a look at this incredibly stark line from a government document. Heat waves are not a notified disaster. I mean, wow. The true suspense of this modern era isn't something you find in a movie theater. The real suspense is watching a society willingly walk right into a summer of hell simply because they've convinced themselves that the mapmaker, the expert warning them about the extreme heat, is a liar. When we ignore the experts, the physical reality of the world doesn't just stop existing, it just catches us completely, totally unprepared.
So we really have to recognize the ultimate root cause here. This whole anti-expert movement that we see sweeping across our feeds every day, it isn't actually about free thinking. It's not about being some independent rebel. It is about fear. We are deeply, deeply terrified of a world that we cannot control and that we cannot easily understand. And because we are so afraid, we instinctively attack the very people who dedicate their entire lives to trying to explain it to us.
We have to remember that trust is literally the glue of civilization. Think back to that airplane analogy from earlier. If we stop trusting the person who actually knows how to fix the engine, the plane is going to go down. It really is that simple. In a world totally defined by hypercomplexity and black boxes, the most revolutionary, rebellious thing you can possibly do in 2026 isn't to pretend you're an expert. The most revolutionary thing you can do is to look at a wildly complex issue and bravely admit, I don't know everything. I want to leave you with a haunting, self-reflective question today. Who benefits from my ignorance? Seriously, the next time you're scrolling and you see one of those shocking headlines, a piece of content that is perfectly designed to make an expert look like a villain, perfectly designed to give you that quick dopamine hit of consonance, just pause. Ask yourself who is actually profiting from making you distrust the people who understand how the world works.
Because the reality of our hyper-complex world is barreling right towards us. Whether we decide to listen to the experts or not, we are not ready. Are you?